Sagittarius, hello there, my beautiful friends. We're going to do your general tarot reading for late June, moving into early July 2026. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I appreciate each and every single one of you. So let's get right down to business, as always, and start you off with an oracle card here, just so we can dip our toes in the energy and see what's happening for the lovely Sagittarius collective. Hope you're all doing fabulous and fantastic, my friends. Let's get it going here. My guide, spirit team, talk to me. What do we got for these beautiful Saggies in late June, early July? What energies, messages, insights can we take a little peek at? And yeah, we're just going to take a real quick look at this first card. Then we'll get into the full reading itself. At the very end, I'll pull you a bonus card from the Shadowland Tarot, just to see what might be in the shadows or what shadow work you can lean into, which is always interesting. But let's get it going here. Let's rock and see what we got for Saggy in late June, early July. What's the vibe? What's the energy? Let's have a good time today, my friends. We're going to have some fun. All right, cool. All right, this card can be very good, very confident. That's something I always say about it. And I know the imagery is a little funny. We have this lady in this big, obscene size dress, and she's surrounded by all these different mirrors. But this could be a very, very confident in oneself type of energy. But there's a downside too. Now, before we fully get into that, if you're new here, I'll be speaking about the June subscriber surprise towards the end, so you might want to check that out. And also, if you could kindly illuminate that like button by tapping it right on its third eye, you know, I'd greatly appreciate it. But enough of the promo, back into the reading. Let's talk more in depth about this card. So again, we have this lovely lady. She's wearing that big, gigantic blue dress that takes up the whole room. She has the big wig on there, and she is like looking in the mirror in a room surrounded by mirrors. So in the positive, we're going to start with the positive. This could represent self-focus. So for some Saggies, maybe you're just focusing on health and self and wellness, all that kind of stuff, where it's like, I need to take care of me first, then I could do X, Y, and Z. And so it is like that I don't want to say self-centered in a bad way, but it's like self-pedestalizing, which again, doesn't have to be bad. But this card can also deal with how one treats themselves too. So in this time, maybe a little self-love, self-care is necessary. Maybe you need to turn the focus inward when this card is here. Because she does remind me of the Queen of Wands, which is a Saggy power card. So it's like very bold, very confident, looks good, feels good. Maybe you're changing something about your look or aesthetics. That's very possible here. But can you guess what the downside to a card like this might be? You know, this lady taking up the whole room and all these different mirrors. I always say that there's a very thin line between confidence and ego, right? Or being egotistical and confident, right? That walks a tightrope. So if you're dealing with any individuals that are like mostly and only self-focused, that's something you need to watch out for, someone that can never admit when they're wrong. So again, it's walking a tightrope here. We're going to let it chill right there, though. Let's get into tarot. And yeah, I always say that first card, it doesn't make or break the reading. It's just a little footnote. So let's get you 3 tarot cards in the upright. Then we'll get into that intuitive juiciness. Shuffle it up one time here for Saggy. What do we got in late June, early July? And while we get this deck shuffled up and ready to go, let's talk about last week's reading. So it was titled An Emotional Warning. And the reading itself did have some positives. There were some silver linings, but it felt like kind of energetic or emotional extremes. So whether that was you or somebody else, it felt like some high highs, some low lows, a little up and down, up and down. So just know, even for the next couple of weeks, watch out for those emotional swings. That could be very possible. But we're going to see what shows up this week. As you know, energy is very fluid, never set in stone. So only take this how it hits for you, because we'd be seeing your vibe or somebody else, right? Let's get it going. 3 cards here for Saggy. What do we have in late June, early July? What do we got? Thank you. Okay, 5 of Wands. That's like off to the races, right? It doesn't necessarily feel bad for me, especially since you're a fire sign. It's just like a lot of intensity that we're starting with here, which can be good. Let's see. Let's get a couple more out here. What do we got for Saggy? Thank you. Okay, 7 of Swords. That is absolutely something to keep a close eye on, my good friends. Let's get one more out here. What do we got for my Saggy friends? What do we got? Cool. Cautious, very cautious. Okay, so we got the Page of Swords right here on the back. I feel like I got the Page of Swords in the Aries reading this week too. So the name of the game that I'm feeling here is like a proceed with caution type of vibe. Again, I'm not trying to make anyone all like nervous or on edge, but it's something worth keeping or taking note of when I see this type of energetic profile. But let's go through. I'll give you some of the classical meanings and archetypes. Then we'll get into that juicy, intuitive stuff. But at first, look, first glance, you know me, I always love to look at the elements. I feel like that frames the reading, tells us how the energy flows or how comfortable or uncomfortable you might be with it. And luckily for Sagittarius, these are all energies that you can work with, even if they're not like your favorite energies or how they're presenting themselves. Like I do feel the ability to work with them. We have fire and air, mostly air showing up here this week. Now, when it comes to air, that does deal heavily with the mind. It's the realm of logic, planning, strategy, thinking things through. It could deal with the mindset, mind state, or perspective. All of that can be huge, like the perspective you view things from. When I see a lot of air, it does deal with communication because there's this underlying tone of giving, receiving, or searching for information. So this is all about knowledge acquisition when we get the air element. Now, the downside to the air is that sometimes it can overthink. Sometimes it's an energy that could be a little too clinical, a little too surgical, where it's not functioning from the heart, it's just functioning from logic. And it's like, nope, this is it. These are the facts. That is that, cut and dry. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's actually a good thing. So I'm not saying it's all that, but we have to see now on the front here, we have fire. That's your power element. That's your comfort zone. So that could be really good. And to me, it just felt very intense. But when it comes to fire, that's the realm of action. So whether it's the actions you take, the actions other people take, the actions you want to take, the actions you're trying to not take, like all of that can be involved when it comes to the fire. It's health, vitality, wellness. I always say that fire to me is a high vibrational energy frequency. So there's a big intensity to it. The only downside to the fire is the explosive quality because it could look like it's going one direction, then take a left. Fire is hard to contain. And when we have the fire air combination, these energies feed off of each other and just make it even more intense. So let's go through and start building this out piece by piece. Position number one, we start with a bang, my friends. We have the Five of Wands right here. And that is one of the few cards I always say you don't need to do much studying. You don't need to be an expert in tarot to understand what this means, right? You have these five people. What are they doing? They're going to war, right? They're battling it out. They're beating the crap out of each other with sticks. Now, in the good sense, this card to me could just be determination, where it's like, can't stop, won't stop. I'm going to continue moving forward. Nothing's going to hold me down, right? Like this energy is always moving forward. If I'm not moving forward, I'm moving backward. So that's interesting how this shows up, especially on the front. It's just very intense, very fiery, very explosive, a lot of push. So again, if this is staying power, if this is motivation and like psyching yourself up and really talking yourself up, this could be a really great thing, right? It's an energy that is no quitter. But the downside to the Five of Wands, it could be very confrontational. It could be very aggressive. It could be very pushy. So whether this is you pushing a little too hard, somebody else pressing on your nerves, all of that could be possible because this is a card that could represent conflict. It could represent problems, right? Like not just with a specific individual, but the Five of Wands, it's like a one thing after another type of deal. So we want to see what's up with it. Right now, I'm just reading it as energetic intensity. That's how I'm viewing it until we clarify it. Ooh, and it's trying to jump out of my hands. Now, moving to the middle as we get this five of Wands right back here by the amethyst crystal. Maybe the crystal will help him chill out. We have the Seven of Swords. Right, this card that gives me a lot of questions. Right, it makes me raise an eyebrow. We see this individual; they have the fez on their head. They're making away with all the swords. Now, in its most positive sense, this is a card that could just represent the unknown, the unseen, something that's just not on my radar right now. Because what's this dude doing? He's functioning in the shadows, right? So to me, it could just be something that hasn't surfaced or arisen just yet. But in its difficult sense, this could absolutely be a warning against a specific person or a situation. Like, this isn't the most trustworthy type of energy. So, could it be sneakiness? Could it be secretiveness? Could it be a liar? All of those things, it could be that. But you know me, I don't always go worst case scenario. So, we want to look into it further. Maybe it's just something that we don't see coming. That's very possible here. But it is worth keeping an eye on, which is funny because like even as we moved to the next card over, it was doing the exact same thing. So we'll see. Is it just something that's unknown, or is it something that we need to be warned about, or someone? Now, on the back end, and it's funny, I said we need to keep an eye on it. We have the Page of Swords, which is the watcher of the tarot deck. And this page was looking right at all this other stuff going on here. Now, for some of you, this could be an air sign you're connected to. So Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. It could represent someone that's a little bit younger than you as well. But it doesn't have to be that. To me, I always say pages represent communication. So they're messengers, but they're also students. So when I see the Page of Swords looking at all this, it's like I'm observing something do what it does in the wild. I'm observing something from a distance. I like, you ever see that meme of like Michael Jackson eating the popcorn where like other people might be going through something and you're like watching it from a distance? The Page of Swords can be that. Now, this card can also represent when you might be getting a little more attention than you usually do, right? Maybe you're under the microscope, maybe someone's watching your moves, maybe you're watching someone else's. I'm not saying that to creep you out, but this is a very observant type of energy. It's watching. So whether it's a situation that needs to be taken seriously or watched, or vice versa, right? Uh, the downside to the Page of Swords, it could be a little too defensive. So, especially with all this other stuff we got going on, I feel like the clarifiers are super, super important. And then, yeah, the fire air mix. So, I want to dive deeper on all of it, Sagi. Let's do it. Let's jump in and clarify. Okay, let's get a good shuffle here. And yeah, this is where I go intuitive with the message, which means I just tell you how it feels to me. So feel free to do further research or rely on your base knowledge of tarot, because as you know, every single reading is about the reader's interpretation, and I'm just giving you mine. Let's go in on the Five of Wands. Why is that Five of Wands here? And yeah, if you're a reader yourself, please feel free to play along. That's why the box is here. If you're feeling any messages you want to give to Saggy, you could drop it in the comments. I don't mind at all. Okay, Five of Wands time. Why is all this intensity here? Thank you. Oh, okay. This is an energy that's like, I'm not just going to sit here on my hands. I'm going to do something. I have to do something about this. I'm going to do something about this. So we're going to have to see if it's something being planned out or if it's just someone saying enough is enough. That's potentially how this energy feels to me. So we have the Five of Pentacles in reverse underneath the Five of Wands. And remember, when we're looking at numerology, fives generally represent like very rapid, quick, or sudden change. So yeah, with the Five of Wands, Five of Pentacles in reverse, it's like, boom, very sudden change, very sudden type of action happening here, especially with the earth energy, which is usually very grounded in reverse underneath it. So I would say watch out for like very sudden explosive action or changes even, because that's just how this feels. Um, for some Saggies, your tolerance for things might be a little lower than they usually are, because that's kind of how this feels to me in the center, where it's like, or on the front end, where it's like, I'm not just going to sit on my hands. I have to do something about this. So the energy is very quick to action, where it's like, all right, I was dealing with this for a long time. I was working through this, but now it's go time. That's how it feels. So we're going to keep moving. I think it's very simple. It's not like there's not a lot of nuance to it, where it's like, I'm just not going to sit on my hands. Either it's very sudden, explosive action or change coming in. So let's keep going. We're going to see what's up. We're going to go in on Seven of Swords, because these are the two that really intrigue me the most. Like with the Seven, which is very hidden, and then we have the Page, which seems to be observing it all from a distance. So we're making note of things. So why is the Seven of Swords here for Saggy? Okay. Okay. Nine of Swords in reverse. Why am I getting coping mechanism? That's odd. I don't know what that is or who it is, but it does feel a bit like a coping mechanism. Um, this energy is definitely shrouded here in the center. There's something about it. I will say this, in this time, if there's like someone that's giving you a funky vibe or a funky feeling, or your gut's trying to tell you something, absolutely keep an eye on the situation, on the individual, on the person, where it's like, I don't think it needs to be the main focus of your everyday life, but it's like, no, you're going to want to make mental notes about certain things someone says, certain things that someone does. It's like, I'm keeping track of stuff. Now, for some Saggies, like maybe there is someone kind of doing that regarding you, where it's like they're keeping track of this, they're keeping track of that. I don't know why that's coming through. Now, the Nine of Swords is another nighttime card, right? It's stressed, it's anxious, it's nervous. You very wound tight, right? It's in its head. That's a big thing here. So when I see it in reverse underneath the Seven of Swords, it's like I don't know what I need, but I need something. It feels like a coping mechanism to me, which doesn't excuse someone's behavior, right? If there's someone that's acting a certain way. But to me, that's the first thing that was popping in my head, like coping mechanism. But I do get this observing situation. So for some of you, whether it is a person that spirit's telling you to keep an eye on, whether it's a situation where spirit's like, hey, take this seriously and keep an eye on this, very possible with all this stuff we have here in the front. Let's keep moving. We're going to see what the page has, because I'm already getting hints of that. We're going to see what the page has, then we'll do a quick little recap before we get into the shadow. So why is the Page of Swords here for my Saggy friends? Why is the Page of Swords here? Good. Yeah, it's a little bit at a distance, right? So we have the energy on the front that is very much go 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 go, action oriented, got to do something now. There's like a little volatility right here on the front, but this page is presenting a totally different perspective here. The Four of Wands, the 1111 card. Now, for some of you, this could actually be really great because this is one of my alignments that I link with like spiritual protection, guardian angels, stuff like that, where it's like you are being watched over, especially if you've been receiving a lot of signs and synchronicities. I love this for spiritual protection. We're going to put that message to the side, though. The Four of Wands, although it is fire, although it does have this whole fire-air combination thing going on, and there's the explosiveness undertone, it's solid, it's stable, it's happy, right? That's the thing. So, like, when I see all this stuff going on and the Page of Swords with the Four of Wands, it's like, all right, I'm just going to observe from a distance. Like, you know how sometimes if you're on like, I don't know why I'm getting like a safari in mind where it's like, oh, you see the lions over there, but you want to keep your distance from those lions, but keep an eye on them anyway. It's something like that. So I know that's very hyper specific, but there may be a situation where spirit's like, all right, observe it, but don't get too involved or don't get too close if possible. So, I mean, you take that for what it's worth, Saji. Either that or there might be someone that's got eyes on you. Right? Maybe there's someone taking notes on you. Very possible. But let's go through and do a quick recap. Then we'll get into the shadow card. So very unique type of reading and energy this week. But if you kindly look in the box, position number one, we have the Five of Wands with the Five of Pentacles in reverse. That is very sudden or explosive action or change, where it's like, I'm not just going to sit around. I have to do something. I can't just let something do this. I have to make action. So it's super intense, and there's a little volatility to it. So just watch out for that, whether that's urges you're having or how someone else is acting, because there's a bit of volatility there. In the center, I have the Seven of Swords with the Nine of Swords in reverse. That does feel a bit like a coping mechanism for something. But for another portion of you, it's like, I really need to keep a close eye on this person, this situation, especially with what we get as we move to the back end here. Page of Swords, Four of Wands, beautiful for spiritual protection. But whether it's you being observed because someone's very interested or curious in what you got going on, or whether it's you watching something but trying to keep a bit of a distance, all of that could be in play here. But I love the spiritual protection and insulation. So please take a screenshot if you want to look into that further. Let's see what's in the shadows. Okay, let's get a good shuffle here. And yeah, I always like to pull a shadow card at the very end just to see whether it's something within you or something you don't quite see. Shadow cards don't always have to be a challenge. They could be a good thing. So let's get you one. And if you made it to this point in the reading, please feel free to check out channel memberships. I'll put a link for it in the comments below. It's a beautiful way to support the channel, and I have much love for all my channel members. All right, let's get this shadow card out. What do we got for the Saggies? Quick, very first shuffle. Four of Cups. That is a very cerebral energy, and in a normal tarot deck, it's a picture of like this lady chilling under the tree, and the universe is handing her the Ace of Cups, and she's thinking. So this energy could sometimes be head in the clouds, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a four also, which is also super stable. So we're getting repeating numbers throughout the course of the whole entire reading. But the Four of Cups, to me, in its positive sense, it's very creative. It thinks outside the box, like the creative problem solving. But this energy can absolutely overthink, head in the clouds, a lot of daydreaming and fantasizing and stuff like that. Which, again, that's not inherently a bad thing. We all need to have an inner world, right? An inner world escape. So maybe that's what ties into this coping mechanism we saw within the reading itself. I think, to me, though, it's an energy that there's a strong buildup of internal energy that needs to be pushed outward in one way, shape, or form. So whether that's through a conversation, whether that's through creative means, whether that's through physical means, when I see this, it's like built up internal energy storage that needs to be pushed outward. So we're just going to put it down right there, my beautiful Sagittarius friends. That's what I have for you this week. Don't click away just yet, though. I'm going to give you the details of the June subscriber surprise. If you would like further insight on your situation or you'd like to have a chat with me, you can book a personal session with me on my website, mastermetaphysics.com. My June calendar is live and spots go quick, so you could go check that out. But for the June subscriber surprise, doing another winner's choice. The winners, which will be three, will have a choice between either the Everyday Witches Tarot, which is a lovely tarot deck, one of my all-time favorites, or you can choose a custom pendant from my website, mastermetaphysics.com. So if you'd like to get your name in for that, it's two simple things. As always, my friends, first, you must be subscribed. And second, let me know down in the comments, out of all the tarot cards in the deck, which one do you feel represents you and your energy best? You could even pick multiple if you'd like. You'll be entered to win, and at the end of the month, the winners will be announced in my community tab /post tab. My friends, much love, and I'll see you soon.